Last week, we had an incredible adventure story with an incredible man, Mr. Joey Evans, doing the Dakar Rally. Now, this week, we've got another incredible adventure, but of a completely different nature, but no less impressive for all that. This gentleman here, you'll probably know him from previous shows. This is Mr. Mike Pusey from Bikers Warehouse. So, Mike, I think we need to start with the basics. What did you do?
Basically, we took 701s and we crossed Africa across the equator, and went from east coast to west coast, right across Africa in one go.
That doesn't sound really that difficult. How far did you travel?
Well, it was 9,000 kilometers, or just short of 9,000 kilometers, and we did it in 28 days. And we rode every day about 350 Ks.
Okay, that does put it into a little bit more perspective. Now, what were you riding? You said the 701. This is the Husky 701.
We chose 701s because there were not many other bikes in the market at the time that were suitable. This was a very suitable product, so we took 7 brand new 701s and we kitted them out for the trip. We put tanks on them, screens on them, handguards on them, carriers on them, and because we had to carry some luggage, we did have some backup there, but very minimal. But we kitted out these 7 bikes to do the job, and then rebuilt them so they would stay intact for the job.
So let's look at the trip itself. I mean, everyone thinks of there being a lot of tar roads in Africa now. You know, the building has gone on. So was it an easy trip? I mean, could you literally just get onto a dirt highway or even a tar road and just cruise all day, or was it a little more difficult?
There was once a lot of tar in Africa, but actually the truth is there's not a lot of tar left now. It's either got potholes or it doesn't exist at all. So the truth is we really spent probably about, out of the 9,000 Ks, I think we did 1,000 on tar or 1,100 on tar. The other 8,000 or 7,500 were all done on dirt, mainly sand and mainly mud. There is really only 1 or 2 main roads in Congo that are used by trucks to get goods in and out of Congo. There's not a train in the place. There's no main roads that actually work. There's no hotels. There's no one-stops. There's no fuel stations. There's nothing of that sort in Congo anywhere. And okay. Congo is 3 times the size of South Africa. It's purely rural. So whatever we did, we had to make plans with kind of whatever we could find on the way. So we crossed thousands of railway lines. We were on some roads. We were on a lot of like pathways which were once roads. And crossing rivers was an absolute education. There were bridges in some places, but a lot of most of the bridges we got to didn't exist or had washed away. So we'd get to these places and put our bikes in dugouts, and we'd cross rivers on dugouts.
We're getting the idea here that this wasn't a walk in the park, this trip.
This is one of the most epic trips I've ever done. In fact, I've never done a trip like it. I've done lots of adventure riding, but truthfully, those are just weekends away. You know, this was a really true adventure, and in every sense, it was an adventure.
How did the bike stand up? I mean, I do get the impression that of all the 7 riders, there were quite a lot of falls, weren't there?
Well, we had about 100 falls combined, where the 7 riders did at least 100 falls, and that's what we recorded. The rest maybe were not seen. But,
I get quiet about that one.
But every rider that fell landed up with a pink stripe added to the bike, so some of the bikes came back very pink, you know.
And mechanically perfect.
And the bikes were flawless the whole trip, absolutely flawless. I've never been on such perfect bikes in my life. Having said that, I did rebuild them before they went there, and I Loctited everything, and I put them together properly, and I stripped, and I checked, and I double-checked, and I put them back. So the bikes had a lot of time spent on them before they went. Yeah. And, I mean, we did 62,000 Ks, and we didn't get one puncture. And the bikes literally didn't have problems except for fuel pumps. We had to fix some fuel pumps on the way, and which we couldn't really work out why they packed up, but the fuel pumps did pack up during the trip, and that's really the only problem we had.
That's incredible. Talking of fuel, you're obviously not stopping, as you said, a one stop every 500 kilometres. You must have modified these to take more fuel. Yeah,
the bikes were modified. They normally have a rear tank, and then we added these 2 front tanks, so we had an additional kind of 200 kilometres on each bike. Okay. So with all the fuel carried, riding at average slow speeds through the jungle, we were doing about 500 Ks on a tank, you know, if they were full.
So, obviously, like hundreds of highs and lows that you must have experienced. What was the worst bit? What was your worst day?
Well, I think there was one particular day was just sand, and it just didn't end. And it got so thick at the end that we were paddling the bikes the last 2 or 3 hours till about 11, 12 at night. Most days we'd start at 5:45 in the morning, and as the sun was kind of coming up, we'd start, and because we rode through winter when it's cooler there, because obviously Congo's hot. So we'd start 5:45 and we'd ride the whole day till most days about sort of 7 to 8 at night, and some days till 10, 12 at night, you know. And we did that every day for 28 days, you know.
And then Give me some of the highs. What were some of the most... You find yourself somewhere and you just go, this is amazing. There must have been a few of those.
Well, there were some amazing things to see. I mean, you get to these places that are unseen because nobody goes there, and they're not recorded. They're not holiday destinations. But when you get to them, these lakes. I mean, I've never seen lakes so big and so vast. I've never seen some of the scenery that I saw riding through those jungles. When you come on the top of a crest of a mountain, you look down and you see thousands kilometers of just jungle below you. It's mind-blowing,
Yeah. So you're travelling through the Congo, not possibly the safest country in the world. What did you do about that?
Well, obviously, Mark Bristow runs Kibali mine up there, one of the biggest mines of the world, if not the biggest mine. And of course, he generates revenues around about 300 million a week for Congo, so it's fairly significant. And I think the Congo government, management, owners, whoever actually runs that whole operation up there, were very concerned that his health would be okay. So I was worried that he would be kidnapped. But truthfully, I got worried that we were going to be kidnapped on the way and he'd be fine. So,
but
yes,
did you have security traveling with you?
We had security traveling with us every single day in some form or another. So Land Cruisers would arrive with government guys and they'd drive off with us to start with, and then we wouldn't see them again for the rest of the day. But most places we went, night stops, wherever camps we stayed at, bush lodges we stayed at, wherever, we would have security with us at all times. And there was one or two areas we went through where there was fighting the day before, so there was quite a heavy contingent of staff that day.
Yeah.
And but other than that, we had security guys with us all the time. You wouldn't have done it without. Yeah. And there's little roadblocks everywhere. So every time you get to a little roadblock, they'll have a little wire, and there'll be a little tree there and a chicken and a guy with an AK. So you're not going to say no, I'm going, because he'll start shooting at you. So the truth is, we had to stop everywhere. But the minute we got these guys, the Land Cruiser would arrive if there was a problem, and it would all be sorted in 5 seconds and we'd be on our way again. So we were very fortunate, very fortunate.
So you get to the end. Is your first emotion immediately like, thank God that's over, never again? Or did you realise that even at that moment, when it's still really fresh, that you've done something epic and very special?
Well, to be honest, it was even epic before we started, because it was quite a thing to get to Mombasa. We stayed in a great hotel there in the beachfront and said, hey, this is fantastic. This is going to be a nice trip. This seems easy, We got air conditioning the first day. It was wonderful. We touched the sea, swam in the ocean on that side, on the Indian side, and then off we went. And then, of course, once we went past Kibali with that big gold mine, once we left Kibali, the roads ended, and that was it. We were now fully in Congo, in the jungle.
That was the end of the honeymoon.
That was the end of it, man. And now we're in the real life-changing experience. And every day was a life-changing experience, because you have to think on your feet and decide, are we going to go this way, are we going to go that way, how to get through. We've got no maps, we've got no referencing. Even the rurals don't know where the next town is, because they don't travel, because there's no roads. So the rural people just stop and say, hey, I need to get to this town. Where is it? How far? It's about 30 km from me. Is it this way or is it this way? And the rural guys go, this way. So actually, we wouldn't know where to go and who to believe. And so we'd go back to Google, try and get some signal, and work out where we were. So it was really an epic trip for these 28 days. And I mean, when I got to the other end, to the ocean by the Congo mouth, it was just phenomenal feeling. You've achieved something, and it really was. I lost a couple of kilos, which made me look slim and trim, and which I put back. But I must say, it was really an epic trip. And you realize when I got to the end and I'm touching that ocean, like, man, that was an achievement, 9,000 Ks of craziness,
Well, it sounds like an absolutely epic trip. I suppose the question is, would you do it again?
I would certainly do it again now that I've recovered and I've gone back to my normal color. So I was a brown color, because I wore the same clothes for 28 days. It was really fantastic.
That's probably one of the least pleasant things. But Mike, thanks so much for telling the story. It's epic, and we wish you all the best for the future.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Thanks, Matt, for having me.